It's been said by some philosophers that life is an illusion. And I believe I might have even said it a time or two myself, that life is an illusion, meaning that what you're experiencing isn't necessarily real. But I'll update that, I'll amend that. Life is real. The experiences that you're having are real. This isn't just some cosmic dream that's going to go away and suddenly you wake up with full enlightenment. No, what you're going through are real experiences with real feelings and ultimately with real wisdom to them. So let's not brush it off and say it's just an illusion, because it is very real. But what you're going through right now and what you're coming out of right now is a limited state of reality. In other words, you're just seeing part of it. You're in a flattened reality. You're only seeing a little bit of what is real. For instance, in this room right now, you might see about a dozen humans, a dozen individuals. Good time to pan the camera with the audience with the camera. You see just a few humans. Your eyes tell you there's just a few people sitting here. And that's a limited reality. The expanded or the full reality is this room is packed with the Shambhara who normally come here because their energy is still here, with those who wanted to be here but were told they could not be, and with angelic beings, with there's some disincarnate beings, some spooks walking around here, there's some alien beings walking around in here. And there's some FEMA people too. Those aren't the spooks I was talking about. There's totally different thing. Yes, isn't it amazing that we can be here in the midst of disaster, like we are, and yet so calm? But that's life, and that's the enlightened life, by the way. It's actually a very good example. There was a lot of destruction, but it wasn't really destruction in this area of Colorado. It was a large clearing. Some people went through destruction. The fact is that you, the ones who live up here, the ones who are close to here, didn't. Inconvenienced, yes. Annoying, absolutely. But you didn't go through the destruction. That's a very good example of how you can live in the midst of chaos. You can live with all of this human drama and confusion and chaos going on around you. The U.S. government shutting down. I didn't know they ever weren't shut down. But you can live in the midst of it, and you can be sovereign. You can laugh. You can celebrate life. You can be a standard for others. Then, when you're not panicking, you're not getting all caught up in the drama. You're saying, an amazing storm brought clearing to the area. And obviously, it's going to be a great place to live because this area has had a huge clearing. So where were we? Illusion and reality. The fact is that the reality that you perceive through the limited human senses says that there's only a few people here. And maybe even your body, your physical senses are saying, well, there's just a few. It seems kind of empty in here. But I ask you, I truly ask you right now to take a deep breath, and even if you're listening in online and you're seeing this pretty empty hall and just me sitting up here, take a good deep breath, because the reality is, beyond your physical senses, that it's very full. It's very, very full with beings. And many of them don't even understand the walls and the ceilings. In other words, they don't have those limitations. There's an energetic, dimensional gathering that's taking place, and it's very real. It's a little funny for me because in my state of awareness, I'm very aware of it, very tuned into it. And I close Calder's eyes for just a moment so he can feel it. Because, as I say, the eyes are one of the greatest deceivers. They're most closely connected to the brain. So the eyes would say, well, there's very few people here. But if you feel for a moment from the I am, you feel from that place within yourself that's true feeling, sensory awareness, the room is actually very full. So what is occurring is that there's a part of you now that's allowing or opening into enlightenment, and that's getting very, very frustrated because you know that there's more. But yet your human senses and math and science and all the rest of that are saying, no, this is exactly what it is. But it's not. It's not. There's so much more. At a deeper level within you, and often within your dream states, you know that there's more, but you don't know how to access it. In other words, what tool, what sense do you use? How do you get through this mental barrier that would have you believing that this is all there is? What do you do to open? Well, ultimately, it's about allowing. You can't force it. I can't really give you any tools or particularly any exercises. We're going to do an experience today, literally a dream walk. So, dear John, you may want to put together some music for later. But ultimately, you allow it. You can't force yourself to go out of your mind from within your mind, but you can allow it from within your spirit. Now, that allowing is going to take some trust, and I'm going to say patience, and more than anything, the fear that what happens if you lose your balance, you lose your place in this reality. And that's a big fear. What happens if you just slip out of this reality? What's reality? What's reality? Well, it's what you perceive. That's simple. Philosophers have philosophized about it. Authors have written about it. Teachers have taught about it, and counselors have counseled about it. But what is reality? It's what you perceive. That's it. Reality has become this word. People talk about reality, that like it's set in place in concrete and stone. Well, some of it is, but it doesn't mean that it's not movable. It's not changeable. Now, humans have been trying for as long as I ever knew after I escaped from my giant crystal prison. Humans have been trying to alter reality ever since. I've watched over eons of time as they've changed, they've tried to change reality, but in oh so little steps, with oh so little success, with a lot of frustration. They've tried to change the nature of reality. Well, the problem is quite simple. The problem is that, A, they believe the reality. They believe this is real. They're trying to change it from within their beliefs, and it doesn't budge very far. As a matter of fact, there's a tendency for reality to contract or to become even more solidified when one really buys into the fact that this is reality. This is not. This is perception. That's all it is. That's all this is perception. I've talked a lot, particularly in the last few years, about the human senses and the mind, and how everything is brought into through these senses and then believed as reality. In order for one to truly go beyond this reality, in order for one to truly change the natures of realities, both being plural, natures of reality, one must be willing to go out and beyond, but one must be willing to also perceive with a whole different set of senses, not of the human senses, but of what you would call your I am senses. I've talked about this in great length because it's so important to understand. This is just a way of perceiving. Scientists even are understanding that matter is not matter, or matter doesn't matter. They're beginning to realize that although you perceive the floor as being solid, and you perceive the person next to you being flesh and bones. It's actually not. It's actually, if you bear with me a moment, but through your eyes, what you're perceiving right now is vastly nothing. Vastly nothing. What you see with your eyes, you assume to be a body, hair, the floor, the ceiling, everything else. Actually, what's there is almost nothing but empty space. Isn't that amazing? But the eyes would have you, the eyes actually doing a nice job of telling your mind that the room is filled with people, or if you're watching it online, that you're watching a computer. You're not. You're watching empty space. For the most part, there are some would say there are particles. I say even that's not true. There is plasma. What you're really sensing in reality is the movement of plasma. That's it. Kind of unromantic, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, tonight you hug somebody in bed and it's like, you're just hugging plasma, it's like, and the plasma is also creating a gravity or creating an effect that is of time and space. So you think that something is happening, as you're hugging that person in bed, and you think that the day is passing and pretty soon you're going to be asleep. Nah, you're just immersed in plasma that's moving through you. But you've been brilliant enough, absolutely brilliant enough to say, let's make it a little bit more exciting. Let's turn plasma, let's turn the movement of time and space into defined experience and reality. Because just swimming around in a bunch of plasma is not a lot of fun, Actually, some days it's probably more fun than the human life. But look what you've done. You've created this out of plasma, which is responding to consciousness, which is really you. You've created all this, and you can also uncreate it, or you can create something totally different. And it's not that hard to do. Creating reality, and I'm not trying to talk about the kind of what we've seen in the past, people trying to change the world. Stop doing that. Create realities for yourself. Now, in creating whatever reality it is that you choose, is going to require getting out of the zoo, going beyond your mind, not worrying about. The important point here is you're doing it for yourself. Stop trying to change the world. That is energetically counterproductive. The moment, a lot of you have been do-gooders in the past, and the moment you're trying to change the world, which I know it's kind of compelling, you want to make everything good and pretty, but it doesn't necessarily want to be good and pretty. World doesn't necessarily want to be defined by your terms. So you go out and try to change the world and think you're doing good, feel really proud and self-righteous and everything else about being a do-gooder. What happens is the natural response of energy will try to then change you. It will come back on you. It will confine you more. It will screw you up, mess you up more. You're trying to change somebody else's natural order or perception. You're acting outside of the compassion, then it's going to do the same thing to you. So stop trying to change the world. Allow yourself to change your own realities. In order to do so, understand that this isn't reality anyway. This is plasma. and we talked about it at some length in Bonn, but this is just a way of perceiving the movement of, you could say, forces, energy. So a lot of you are like, I got to get out of here. There's something more. I've got to change reality. And you can, at any moment, by, well, it's as simple as allowing it. The tricky part is, again, saying, I'm not going to try to change everything out there. I'm not going to try to change bad traffic or rude humans or anything like that. And that's where some of you have run into problems. It's like, well, I just want all that to change for me. No. In order to change reality, it's about doing it for you. And then it's just about letting yourself really imagine, dream, or we should say feel into the other realms. And the other realms don't even exist until you get there. Don't think of the other realms as something predefined, as there's already these heavens. There's already everything else is defined out there, because it's a trap. It's really just more of this reality. When you get into that, like you think, that's why I'm adamantly opposed to when people get into the fifth dimension and the sixth and everything else, because they're buying into just a little bit more polished human reality. They don't really understand, and there's not those dimensions. There's nothing until you're there. And then a new reality starts to take form. A new reality is birthed. Not one that you're going to bring everybody else into. Don't even worry about that right now. But one that you can birth on your own. What does that mean? It means you know that there's so much more than this, and there is. But the place to start is birthing your own new realities by being there. I am here. And you can be multiple places, of course. You can be I am here. You can be having a conversation with another master. And in the meantime, birthing a new reality for yourself. It's going to liberate you to understand that you're not stuck here. It's going to free you to realize the beauty of putting consciousness into what's now nothing and birthing something and then watching it evolve. Not in human terms, not in the old human ways, but watching it evolve in a way that is not linked or not set into this reality. Let's take a good deep breath here for a moment. Feel a lot of going mental. There is a lot more than this. A lot more. And as we go into our transhuman series, we're going to be literally experiencing your other realms. Not other dimensions that belong to somebody else or anything. And then from that experience, you'll understand really how you got here and how easy it is to go beyond. So let's begin. And Linda, may I have my prop here?
Oh, which one?
Oh, better than a sword.
Oh.
Better than a sword.
Oh, yes, sir.
So the prop,
My
a way
pleasure.
of demonstrating something. This is going to be the formula. So what we have here is, just so everybody can see, is a roll of wrapping paper, a tube with wrapping paper, beautiful roses on it, like fruit of the rose. Everybody see it? Good. Beautiful. Thank you to Linda for supplying this. So this is a beautiful metaphor. Beautiful metaphor, because humans live in a tube, live on the inside of there. What they don't see several things. First of all, they don't really think they're just living inside a tube. They think that this is all there is. So when they're living inside the tube, what do they see?
Limited vision.
Ugly cardboard. Really, in a bland, kind of ugly cardboard. They don't see the outside, which is this beautiful wrapping. They don't see that their tube, which represents linear reality. Linear reality. They don't see that this tube is wrapped in gift paper. Beautiful gift paper. So they don't really see that life is a gift. It's a beautiful gift for them. Because they're living inside this tube, and you almost have to imagine this tube going on forever and ever, coming from forever and ever, going on forever and ever. Because they're living inside here, they don't see anything in this room. They're trapped in there. And they don't see Pete. They don't see Vince. They don't see Joyce or anybody else. They think that inside the tube is reality. So we're talking before about this formula that has to do with energy, doubt, consciousness, expansion. If you would hold that for a moment. Hold the prop here. So this is... So here you are in the present moment. Thank you.
A little more room.
Living within that tube, going into your experience, and the experience that ultimately gives you wisdom. So here you are, and the next part of the equation has to do with choice. You make a choice. We relate this back to our discussion last month of how all this works, how energy is affecting everything. So you make a choice. And let's say the choice is to expand your reality. So now that choice immediately starts drawing in energies from all over to support it. So theoretically, your tube, here you are in your tube, theoretically in your tube, it should start now expanding, growing bigger, and ultimately dissolving. The whole tube dissolves away. So starting here and then just getting bigger and bigger, because you've made, let's say, the choice to expand your consciousness and awareness. Now, if you notice here that in this drawing is contrary to typical perspective. In other words, as you go along in your experience, it's opening up and eventually dissolves. Typically, in perspective, as you go on your journey, and it creates a distant end point, or really an infinity point that keeps going. So here you're going along on your journey by choice, drawing in energy, and eventually expanding. Now, the question came in about doubt. What happens with doubt? Doubt is naturally suppresses or pushes away the energies that are supposed to be moving in. So doubt will decrease the level of energy that's supporting the choice that would eventually give you more experience and wisdom. So it's basically like the formula would be present moment plus choice equals expansion, but when you put equals energy and then expansion. But when doubt comes in, it has a way of taking the energy out of the equation or suppressing it to the point that you're never really going to have that expansion, or the expansion just goes along in this linear tube, and you're not really expanding, you just continue traveling along here. So, dear friends, the point is, doubt has a significant influence on the energies that are coming in. The doubt comes from you, it doesn't come from anywhere else. So in this year also, take a deep breath and take a look at your doubt. Take a look at what it's doing with the energies, how it's keeping you in a tube, a linear tube. When you release the doubt, you're going to attract a lot more energy. Energy that is simpler, easier, more efficient. Doubt will actually, I forgot one important point in here. In this whole analogy, this tube, get a new sheet here. In this whole analogy, the tube that you have is existing within time and space. So time and space make this tube the reality. And it keeps it held in there, keeps you held in there. So as you attract more and more energies with less and less doubt, it will start blowing away the whole concept of time and space. Time and space are brilliant creations up to a point. There comes a point when you get off of them. You, as I said before, you start looking into the layers and levels, and suddenly you're not using time and space as the measurement devices and as the devices that hold you into this reality. You start expanding out of them. Doubt will put time and space, the time and space equation, back into your reality. Doubt gets you right back into time and space. And we'll continue our discussion in our next gathering about time and space, how they serve you, and also why it really doesn't serve you anymore. Time and space are going to be, it sounds romantic to get beyond them. It's actually a little bit frightening. It's a matter of fact, can be terrifying to go beyond time and space, because suddenly your tube, that's when you hold up the tube, suddenly the tube doesn't exist anymore. Or the tube no longer has the characteristics that you've always thought it has from looking within. Suddenly, it's expanding. Suddenly, it's not on a linear path. It's flowing in a lot of different ways. Suddenly, you're not bound to or contracted into this reality like you were before. It's one of the things that the Ascended Masters had a particular difficult time with, no pun intended, but they had difficulty with this whole concept of going beyond time and space. So you want more consciousness, you want more energy, and all the rest of these things, but they are not going to fit into this tube. This tube is defined by time and space and a certain energy equation. We're going to go beyond that, and please save this. This is we'll continue to use it.
Oh, I should save my tube of paper? Okay.
Absolutely. It's a gift. It's gift wrapping. It's gift wrapping. So we'll continue to go beyond, but I do want to do, in our first session in 2012, I do want to do a dream walk.